What if you could keep water flowing without ever relying on a power line? For the Amish, this isn't survival, it's daily life. Using age-old systems that still outperform modern setups, they've mastered a way to stay self-sufficient in any season. When most people turn on a faucet, water just shows up. But for the Amish, getting water starts with something much more basic: a big hole in the ground. Hand-dug wells have been keeping Amish families with plenty of water for many years, and there's nothing fancy about how they do it. Just hard work, strong backs, and the hope that they'll hit water before they dig too deep. The usual Amish well goes down anywhere from 20 to 40 feet deep, depending on where the underground water sits in their area. That's like digging down 3 stories underground, but instead of using a huge machine that sounds like an angry monster, they do it the old way, with shovels, buckets, and lots of hard work. The digging is pretty well planned out. One person goes down into the hole and fills buckets with dirt and rocks. Another person stands at the top, pulling up those heavy buckets with a rope. As the well gets deeper, they put wooden boards along the sides to keep the walls from falling in. Nobody wants to become part of their own water supply. Some people pay lots of money for gym time, but the Amish get their workout by moving dirt one shovel at a time. Once they hit water, the real building work begins. They put stones at the bottom to clean out mud and junk. The sides get built up with more stones or sometimes concrete blocks to keep everything solid. This isn't just about digging a hole, it's about making a water source that'll work for many years. The daily routine is really simple. Drop a bucket down on a rope, let it fill with water, and pull it back up. Most Amish families keep a wooden cover over their well to stop leaves, curious animals, and other unwanted visitors from taking a surprise swim. After all, nobody wants to tell guests why their drinking water tastes like squirrel. What makes these wells great isn't just how simple they are, it's how well they work. While regular homes need electric pumps that stop working when the power goes out, these hand-dug wells keep making water no matter what. The water stays nice and cool even when it's hot outside because it's stored underground away from the sun. Kids often help with getting water each day, learning how to be helpful while building muscles they didn't know they had. It becomes a family job that connects each new group of kids to the same water source that kept their grandparents and great-grandparents alive and healthy. Speaking of family jobs, some Amish kids get so good at pulling up water that they could probably lift a small tractor. Taking care of the well is easy but important. Every few months, someone needs to climb down and clean out any junk that's settled at the bottom. They also check that the stone walls are still in good shape and that no cracks have started. It's the kind of care that makes sure they have clean, safe water for years to come. These wells mean something more than just a place to get water. They show how people can take care of themselves and prove that the best systems are often the simple ones. While everyone else rushes toward more complex ways of doing things, the Amish have gotten really good at going straight to what works. But digging wells isn't the only way Amish communities use nature's power for their daily needs. Think about this, a tall metal tower spinning slowly in the breeze, looking like it came from an old cowboy movie, but actually doing some serious water-moving work. Amish windmills aren't just nice-looking towers sitting in the countryside. They're hard-working machines that can pump thousands of gallons of water every week without using any fuel. These amazing machines work on an idea so simple, it's almost funny that it took people so long to figure it out. Wind turns the blades turn a rod, the rod moves a pump, and water gets lifted from deep underground to wherever it's needed. No monthly electric bills, no worrying about power going out, and no need to call someone to fix it when something breaks. Just good old wind doing what it does best. The spot where these windmills go is really important. Amish farmers pick open fields where the wind flows freely, away from barns, trees, and other things that might block the breeze. Height matters too. The higher the windmill, the stronger and steadier the wind it catches. That's why these towers often reach 30 to 50 feet into the air, making them easy to see from far away and turning them into neighborhood markers that everyone knows. The only thing you can count on more than an Amish windmill is an Amish farmer talking about the weather. On a good windy day, a single windmill can pump anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 gallons of water. That's enough to fill several bathtubs, give water to the farm animals, and still have plenty left over for house needs. When it's not as windy, the pumping slows down, but the water keeps flowing slowly into storage tanks where it waits quietly for when it's needed most. The best thing about windmill pumps is how long they last. Many of the windmills still spinning on Amish farms today were built many years ago by people who knew that making things right was more important than making them fast. The moving parts are simple, mostly just gears, rods, and parts that spin, and they can be fixed with basic tools and a little know-how. Some windmills are built so well, they'll probably still be pumping water long after cell phones end up in museums. Taking care of them means checking the oil, greasing the moving parts, and sometimes putting in new pieces when old ones wear out. Most Amish men can handle these fixes themselves, often learning how from their fathers like a family trade secret. When parts do wear out, they're usually simple enough to be made in a local metal shop rather than ordered from some faraway factory. The pumping works through a series of rods that connect the spinning windmill top to a pump way down in the well. As the windmill turns, it makes an up and down motion that works a pump underground. This pump pulls water up through the well and pushes it into storage tanks or directly to where it's needed. Winter doesn't stop these hard workers. Even when ice forms on the blades, most windmills keep turning as long as there's wind to catch. The constant moving actually helps stop ice from building up, and the pump keeps working even when it's really cold outside. The only product we'll ever promote on our channel is a book by Claude Davis, a veteran prepper, about 126 superfoods and preservation methods from crisis times like the Great Depression and wartime that are impossible to find elsewhere. We decided to promote his book because we are the last generation able to share these techniques and superfoods to our children or grandchildren. It would be a shame to see this information about highly nutritious foods and preservation methods to survive crises disappear. You can also find a book about herbal remedies from Nicole Apelian on their store. If you're watching this on TV, you can look up our channel, Frugal Solutions, on your phone or tablet and find the books by clicking the link in our channel description or any other video description. The only time an Amish windmill takes a break is when the wind decides to take one first. These windmills do double work on many farms. Besides pumping water for the house, they also supply water for farm animals. Cows, horses, pigs, and chickens all need that steady flow. Some farmers connect their windmills to several water sources using valves to send the flow wherever it's needed, most at any time. The site of these windmills has become so connected with Amish areas that visitors often stop just to watch them turn. But for the families who need them, they mean something more practical. A reliable source of life's most needed resource, powered completely by nature's own energy. However, wind isn't the only natural force that Amish families have learned to use for their water needs. Nature sometimes does all the heavy lifting, and the Amish know exactly how to let it work. When a farm sits on land blessed with natural springs, families build what might be the smartest water system ever created, the spring house. These simple buildings do double duty as both water suppliers and natural coolers, all without needing a single drop of fuel or flick of a switch. Springs bubble up from underground in the most natural way possible. Cold, clean water pushes up through rocks and soil, creating a constant flow that never stops, even during the driest summers. The Amish discovered long ago that if you can catch this water at its source and let gravity do the rest, you've got yourself a water system that practically runs itself. Building a spring house starts with finding the best spot where the water emerges from the ground. The structure gets built right over or very close to the spring source, usually made from stone or wood that can handle constant moisture. Inside, they create channels and small waterways that direct the flow exactly where it needs to go. Spring houses work so well, even the water seems happy to be there. The real magic happens with the temperature. Spring water stays consistently cool year-round, usually between 50 to 60 degrees, no matter how hot or cold it gets outside. This makes the spring house perfect for storing milk, butter, eggs, and other foods that spoil quickly in warm weather. Before anyone had electric fridges, this was the best cooling system available. Gravity takes care of moving the water from the spring to wherever it's needed around the farm. Pipes or wooden channels carry the flow downhill to the house, barn, or wherever livestock need to drink. Since water always flows downhill, there's never any need for pumps or mechanical help, just simple physics doing what it does best. The spring house becomes a busy place during hot summer months. Milk jugs get lowered into the cold running water to keep cream from going sour. butter stays firm and fresh even when temperatures outside climb toward 90 degrees. Vegetables from the garden stay crisp and cool until they're ready to be cooked or preserved for winter. The only thing that stays cooler than food in a spring house is the farmer's temper on wash day. Taking care of a spring requires regular attention, but nothing too complicated. Leaves, sticks, and other debris need to be cleared away from the source so they don't block the flow or make the water dirty. The channels and pipes need checking to make sure nothing has gotten stuck or broken. Most families assign this job to older children who can handle the responsibility. The water quality from springs is usually excellent because it gets naturally filtered through layers of sand, gravel, and rock as it travels underground. This filtering process removes most dirt and harmful stuff, leaving behind clean, fresh-tasting water that's safe to drink straight from the source. During heavy rains, springs often increase their flow, providing extra water when it's needed most. During dry spells, the flow might slow down a bit, but it rarely stops completely because the underground water source runs so deep. This reliability makes springs one of the most dependable water sources available. Even drought years can't dry up a good spring, though they might make it a little less chatty. Some families build multiple spring houses if they're lucky enough to have several springs on their property. Each one can serve different purposes, one for drinking water, another for cooling food, and maybe a third for watering animals. The beauty of having multiple sources is that if one needs cleaning or repair, the others keep working. The overflow from spring houses doesn't go to waste either. Extra water flows into ponds for livestock, irrigation channels for gardens, or simply back into natural waterways where it continues its journey downstream. Nothing gets wasted in a system designed by nature and improved by human ingenuity. But springs aren't the only way the Amish capture water that falls freely from the sky. Free water falls from the sky regularly, and the Amish have turned catching it into an art form that would make any penny pincher proud. Rainwater collection systems on Amish farms are beautifully simple. Just roofs, gutters, and barrels working together to capture thousands of gallons during wet seasons. No complicated technology, no monthly fees, just smart planning and containers that never complain about working overtime. The setup starts with the roof, which acts like a giant funnel designed to catch every drop that nature sends down. Metal roofs work especially well because they're smooth and clean, allowing water to flow quickly toward the gutters without picking up too much dirt or debris along the way. The steeper the roof, the faster the water moves, which means less time for leaves and other junk to settle on the surface. Gutters become the highways that direct all this free water towards storage containers. Most Amish families use simple metal or wooden gutters that channel the flow from large roof areas into downspouts. These downspouts connect directly to barrels, tanks, or cisterns placed strategically around buildings to catch the maximum amount of water possible. Rain barrels fill up faster than gossip spreads through a small town. A single inch of rain falling on a 1,000 square foot roof can produce over 600 gallons of water. That means a modest-sized house can collect several thousand gallons during a good spring storm. Even a small barn roof can gather enough water in one heavy rainfall to supply a family's washing and cleaning needs for weeks. The barrels themselves come in all shapes and sizes, from old wooden whiskey barrels to modern plastic containers that hold 50 gallons or more. Many families paint their barrels dark colors to prevent algae from growing inside, and they always keep tight-fitting lids to keep mosquitoes and other bugs from turning the water storage into their personal swimming pools. Filtering happens naturally and artificially in most rainwater systems. The first few minutes of any rainfall get diverted away from the storage containers because this water washes dirt, bird droppings, and other unwanted material off the roof. After this initial cleaning, the water flows into storage containers where it settles, allowing any remaining particles to sink to the bottom. The only thing that gets filtered more than rainwater is family news at Sunday dinner. Smart families install overflow systems that direct excess water away from their foundations when barrels get full. Nobody wants a flooded basement just because they got greedy trying to catch every drop of rain. These overflow pipes usually lead to gardens, flower beds, or areas where extra water actually helps instead of causing problems. The collected rainwater works great for washing clothes, cleaning floors, watering gardens, and giving livestock fresh drinking water. While some families drink rainwater after boiling it, most prefer to use it for household chores and save well water or spring water for drinking and cooking. This smart division of water sources means they always have enough for every need. Rainwater is so soft, it makes laundry soap feel like it's on vacation. Storage containers need regular cleaning to prevent algae, bacteria, and other unwanted guests from setting up housekeeping. Most families empty and scrub their barrels at least twice a year, usually in spring and fall when they're doing other seasonal maintenance work around the farm. During dry spells, these stored gallons become incredibly valuable. Gardens stay green, animals stay hydrated, and families can continue their daily routines without worrying about running out of water for cleaning and washing. The water that seemed free and endless during rainy season becomes liquid gold when the skies stay clear for weeks at a time. Winter brings special challenges to rainwater collection systems. Pipes and gutters can freeze, blocking the flow and sometimes cracking containers if ice expands too much. Many families disconnect their systems during the coldest months and rely on other water sources until spring thaw gets everything flowing again. The best part about rainwater collection is how it connects families to natural cycles and weather patterns. Children learn to celebrate rainy days, not just for the relief from heat, but for the valuable resource falling freely from above. Every storm becomes a chance to refill their water supplies and prepare for the drier days ahead. However, storing all this precious water requires more than just barrels and good intentions. Underground water storage might sound like something from a medieval castle, but Amish families have perfected this ancient technique into a modern marvel that keeps thousands of gallons cool, clean, and ready for use. These underground cisterns work like giant buried treasure chests, except instead of gold coins, they hold something far more valuable during dry summer months. Building a cistern starts with digging a hole that's usually 8 to 12 feet deep and wide enough to hold anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 gallons of water. The size depends on how many people live in the house, how many animals need water, and how long the dry seasons typically last in that area. The construction uses either stone, concrete blocks, or poured concrete to create walls that won't crack, leak, or crumble over time. The inside gets coated with waterproof material to keep the stored water from seeping out into the surrounding soil. Cisterns hold water better than teenagers hold secrets. The top of every cistern gets covered with a strong lid that can support the weight of people walking over it. Many families build their cisterns under yards or driveways where the extra weight actually helps keep the lid in place. Ventilation pipes allow air to circulate while keeping bugs and animals out. Most cisterns connect directly to the house gutters through underground pipes, creating an automatic filling system that works whenever it rains. The first flush of water from each storm gets diverted away to clean the roof. Then the system switches to fill the cistern with cleaner water. The temperature control in cisterns is remarkable. Underground storage keeps water at a steady 50 to 60 degrees year-round, which prevents freezing in winter and provides refreshingly cool water during hot summer days. Water stays so cool in cisterns, even the ice cubes get jealous. Cisterns really prove their worth during drought years when wells start running low and springs slow to a trickle. Families with properly sized cisterns can go weeks or even months without worrying about running out of water for cooking, cleaning, and taking care of animals. Maintenance involves checking the pump system, cleaning the inlet filters, and occasionally going down into the empty cistern to scrub the walls and bottom. Most families do this deep cleaning every few years, usually in late fall when they can wait for winter rains to refill their storage. Having multiple cisterns is like having multiple savings accounts, except these pay dividends in gallons instead of dollars. The overflow system prevents flooding during heavy rains by directing excess water away from foundations and into gardens or fields where it can soak into the ground naturally. But collecting and storing water is just the beginning of how Amish families bring this precious resource directly into their homes. The heart of every Amish kitchen beats with the rhythmic sound of cast iron hand pumps bringing fresh water directly to where it's needed most. These mechanical marvels replace electric faucets with something far more reliable, a simple pump that works every single time someone puts muscle behind the handle. Installation of kitchen hand pumps connects directly to the family's main water source, whether that's a well, cistern, or spring system. The pump mechanism sits right at the kitchen sink, usually made from heavy cast iron that can handle decades of daily use without wearing out. Hand pumps get more of a workout than most people do at the gym. The daily routine becomes second nature for everyone in the family. A few strong strokes of the handle brings fresh, cold water gushing out of the spout and into whatever container needs filling. Children learn early how to pump water, starting with light strokes and gradually building up strength. Priming the pump is sometimes necessary, especially first thing in the morning or after the system hasn't been used for several hours. This involves pouring a small amount of water down the top of the pump to help create the initial suction needed to start the flow. The sound of hand pumps becomes the soundtrack of daily kitchen life. The rhythmic squeak and splash signals meal preparation, dishwashing, and all the other water-related activities that keep a household running smoothly. Some hand pumps squeak so much they could double as morning alarm clocks. Maintenance keeps these pumps working smoothly for many years. The handle pivot points need occasional oiling to prevent excessive squeaking and stiffness. The leather washers inside the pump cylinder sometimes need replacement when they start letting air leak through. Different pump styles serve different needs. Some pumps bring water up from shallow wells 20 to 30 feet deep, while others can handle deeper sources up to 100 feet underground. The deeper the water source, the more strokes it takes to bring water to the surface. Hand pump spouts come in more varieties than excuses for being late to church. Winter operation requires some special attention to prevent freezing. The pump mechanism itself rarely freezes because the constant use keeps water moving through the system. However, the spout can freeze if water sits in it during extremely cold weather. Water quality from hand pumps depends entirely on the source they're connected to. Well, water comes up clean and cold, spring water flows clear and fresh, and cistern water provides whatever quality was stored during the last collection period. The satisfaction of operating a hand pump connects people directly to their water source in a way that turning on electric faucets never can. Every stroke represents the effort needed to bring life-sustaining water from deep underground to the surface. Yet even the most efficient hand pumps can't match the power and convenience of systems that harness the natural force of flowing water itself. Water can actually pump itself if you know the secret, and the Amish have been using this amazing trick for generations with devices called hydraulic rams. These clever machines use the power of flowing water to push some of that same water uphill, which sounds impossible until you see one working. No fuel, no electricity, no moving parts that break down, just water pressure doing all the heavy lifting in a way that would make any engineer proud. The whole system works because of something called water hammer, the same force that makes pipes bang in your house when you shut off a faucet too quickly. In a hydraulic ram, this banging force gets harnessed to do useful work instead of just making noise. Fast-flowing water builds up pressure, then suddenly stops, creating a powerful push that forces some water up through pipes to wherever it's needed. Setting up a hydraulic ram requires a stream or creek with steady water flow and at least a 3-foot drop from where the water starts to where the ram sits. The steeper the drop, the more power the system creates, which means more water gets pumped uphill. Some systems can push water 200 feet higher than the original source, turning a low creek into a high-pressure water supply for barns and fields. Hydraulic rams work so well, they make gravity look like it's having a bad day. The beauty of these systems lies in their simplicity. The main parts include a drive pipe that brings water down from the source, a waste valve that opens and closes automatically, a pressure chamber, and a delivery pipe that carries pumped water uphill. When everything works together, about 10% of the flowing water gets pumped uphill while 90% flows away as waste. The automatic action happens when flowing water builds up speed and pressure in the drive pipe, then suddenly hits the closed waste valve. This creates a powerful shock that opens a one-way valve leading to the pressure chamber. Water gets forced into this chamber under high pressure, then pushed out through the delivery pipe toward its uphill destination. The whole cycle repeats itself 30 to 100 times per minute, creating a steady pumping action that never stops. The only thing more reliable than a hydraulic ram is the sunrise, and the ram doesn't take weekends off. Maintenance requirements are incredibly low because hydraulic rams have no complex moving parts to break down. The main things that need attention are keeping the intake screen clean of leaves and debris, occasionally adjusting the waste valve to maintain proper timing, and checking that all pipe connections stay tight. Most systems run for years without needing any major repairs. The pumping capacity depends on the water flow rate and the height difference between the source and destination. A typical ram with good water flow can pump 500 to 1,500 gallons per day, which is plenty for most farm needs. Heavy rains actually increase their pumping capacity because more water flows through the source stream. Hydraulic rams pump water uphill better than some people pump gas into their cars. The sound of a working hydraulic ram becomes familiar around farms that use them. The rhythmic thumping of the waste valve opening and closing creates a mechanical heartbeat that can be heard from quite a distance. Most Amish families consider it the sound of free water being delivered exactly where they need it. However, streams and flowing water aren't available on every property, which means some communities have found other ways to work together for their water needs. When individual families join forces to dig one really good well instead of several mediocre ones, everybody wins with better water, lower costs, and stronger neighborhood bonds. Community wells bring Amish families together in ways that go far beyond just sharing water. They create ongoing partnerships that last for generations and prove that cooperation often works better than competition. The planning for a community well starts with families who live close enough to each other to make sharing practical. Usually 3 to 6 households participate, pooling their money, labor, and expertise to create a well that's deeper, better built, and more reliable than what any single family could afford on their own. Choosing the location requires careful thought about several factors. The well needs to be positioned where it can easily supply water to all participating families without anyone having to carry heavy buckets unreasonable distances. The site also needs to be in a spot where digging is likely to hit good water without going too deep. Community wells bring neighbors together faster than gossip about who's courting whom. The digging process becomes a community event that can take several weeks depending on how deep they need to go. Men take turns going down into the hole, while others operate the rope and bucket system that hauls dirt to the surface. Women often provide meals and refreshments for the workers, turning the hard labor into social gatherings that strengthen community bonds. Costs get divided fairly among all participating families based on factors like household size, expected water usage, and ability to contribute labor versus money. These arrangements get worked out in advance to prevent disagreements later. Shared wells get more attention than the preacher's Sunday sermon. Maintenance responsibilities rotate among the participating families on a schedule that everyone agrees to in advance. Each family takes turns cleaning the area around the well, checking the pump system, and making sure the cover stays secure. Major repairs get handled by group decision with costs split fairly among all users. The social benefits often prove more valuable than the water itself. Daily trips to the community well create natural meeting times where neighbors catch up on news, discuss farming techniques, and help solve each other's problems. Children from different families play together while their parents pump water, creating friendships that often last lifetimes. Water rights and usage rules get established when the well is first dug to prevent future conflicts. Most communities allow unlimited use for household needs like cooking, cleaning, and drinking, but might limit water for large projects like filling livestock ponds or irrigating big gardens. Community well rules are simpler than most board games and twice as fair. During dry years, shared wells often provide more security than individual wells because they're usually deeper and tap into larger underground water sources. When shallow private wells start running low, community wells often keep producing because they reach water supplies that don't get affected as quickly by drought conditions. Quality control becomes everyone's responsibility when multiple families depend on one water source. Any contamination affects all users, which means everyone stays alert for potential problems and takes quick action to solve issues before they affect the whole community. But even the most reliable wells can't provide water during the coldest months of the year, which is when Amish ingenuity really shines with completely different approaches to securing water supplies. Winter transforms ponds and streams into giant outdoor freezers, and the Amish have turned this seasonal gift into a reliable water source that keeps families supplied with clean, cold water all through the hottest summer months. Ice harvesting brings entire communities together for what might be the hardest work that somehow feels like the most fun. The process starts when ice reaches the right thickness, usually 8 to 12 inches deep, which provides blocks heavy enough to be useful but still manageable for teams of workers to handle safely. Tools for ice harvesting are beautifully simple: long-handled ice saws, ice tongs for gripping blocks, and long poles for guiding floating pieces. Ice harvesting is the only time of year when frozen water gets more attention than Sunday dinner. The cutting follows a careful pattern that creates a grid of blocks. Each block typically measures about 2 feet by 3 feet and weighs 100 to 150 pounds when fully cut. Teamwork makes ice harvesting possible because these heavy blocks require multiple people to handle safely. Storage begins immediately after cutting because ice starts melting as soon as it leaves the water. The blocks get loaded onto sleds and hauled to specially built ice houses where they'll spend the next 6 to 8 months slowly melting into drinking water. Ice blocks melt faster than New Year's resolutions, so moving them quickly is essential. Ice houses are engineering marvels built specifically for keeping frozen water frozen as long as possible. The buildings have thick walls with sawdust or straw insulation packed between layers. The packing process requires skill to maximize how long the ice will last. A properly packed ice house can keep ice frozen well into late summer, providing cool drinking water during the hottest months. Some ice houses maintain frozen blocks until October or November. Well-stored ice lasts longer than most people's patience during a long church service. The harvesting process creates social traditions within Amish communities. Families work together, with men handling the heavy cutting while women prepare hot meals and warm drinks for the workers. The melted ice water has several advantages over other water sources. It starts perfectly clean because it's made from frozen precipitation, and the slow melting process keeps it cool and fresh tasting throughout the summer. Yet ice harvesting isn't the only way Amish communities harness animal power to meet their daily water needs. Horses and mules don't just pull plows and wagons, they also power some of the most efficient water pumping systems ever designed, turning animal strength into steady water flow that can supply entire farms without using a drop of fuel. These living engines work at their own pace and never break down from mechanical failure. The basic setup uses a long wooden arm connected to a pump mechanism, with the horse or mule walking in a circle to create the up and down motion needed to operate the pump. As the animal walks around the circle, the arm rises and falls, creating suction that draws water up from wells. Building an animal-powered pump system starts with creating a level circular path, usually 20 to 30 feet in diameter, where the animal can walk comfortably. The center of the circle holds a vertical post that supports the pumping mechanism. Animal-powered pumps are the only machines that get better performance when you feed them oats. The pumping capacity depends on the size and strength of the animal, the depth of the water source, and how fast the animal walks. A strong horse can pump 1,000 to 2,000 gallons per day when working at a steady pace, while smaller animals can handle 500 to 1,000 gallons daily. Training animals for pump work is surprisingly easy because most horses and mules quickly learn the routine and actually seem to find the repetitive walking relaxing. The key is starting with short sessions and gradually increasing the time. Horses never call in sick, demand overtime pay, or complain about working conditions. Maintenance focuses on keeping the mechanical parts well-oiled and the walking path in good condition. Different animals work better for different situations. Heavy draft horses provide maximum pumping power for deep wells, while mules offer excellent endurance. The social aspect of animal-powered pumps often makes them community gathering spots where neighbors stop to chat. Children learn responsibility by helping supervise the animals and maintaining the equipment. The only thing more stubborn than a mule is a mule that doesn't want to pump water, but most actually enjoy the work. Some farms use multiple animals in rotation, allowing one to rest while another works, which provides continuous water pumping without overworking any single animal. These remarkable water systems prove that sometimes the oldest solutions remain the most practical, combining animal welfare with human needs while creating reliable access to life's most essential resource. In the end, the Amish remind us that water doesn't have to depend on wires or switches. Their simple, reliable methods prove that with the right systems, self-sufficiency is always possible. And perhaps their way offers lessons modern life has nearly forgotten.